Shalom, Baruchim Habib. Welcome, everyone. This is Hazzan Daniel Friedman from Temple Ramat Zion in Northridge, California, the north part of the San Fernando Valley. And you are here with me for Exploring Jewish Music with Hazzan Daniel Friedman. And tonight I have a fantastic guest, Hazzan Pablo Dweck, who is coming to us from the Conejo Valley, one valley over, who is the Hazzan over at Temple Eitz Chaim and has been there for many, many, many years. And I'm going to pin him so you can say, welcome, Pablo. Good to see you. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. How are you tonight, my friend?
Daniel Friedman, a pleasure to being in this space with you. Thank you for having me. And I want to say to everybody watching, nice to meet you, even though we cannot shake hands, we cannot hug each other, we cannot see each other. You can see me, I cannot see you. But definitely it is a pleasure to be here sharing a moment of Jewish music, a moment of nice talk. So
yes, exactly. You. This is the virtue of the pandemic world that we're in right now. But it's been my pleasure to be able to meet with my friends and bring you to my community So let's dive right in. I know you don't have a lot of time. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Pablo. I'm sure that everybody's recognized you have a little bit of an accent. Probably not a native of the United States.
I'm not, even though I'm a citizen several years ago. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina, the land of the good wine, beautiful women, and beautiful people,
and wonderful chazunas and great music. A lot of great cantors have come out of Argentina, and some luminaries in the field, correct?
Yes.
In Buenos Aires in particular, there's a yeshiva there, correct?
The Jewish world in Argentina is huge, especially in Buenos Aires, being the capital city. I would say 20 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, the population back there was 250,000 Jews.
Wow.
When we say 250,000 Jews, we are talking about the highest amount of Jewish people in Latin America. So you have US, many other places, some in Europe, and then Argentina. Nowadays, because of people making Aliyah, people like me coming to the States and other places, and sadly assimilation as well, I would say that Jewish population is around 200,000, but still it's a huge number. And Jewish people gravitate there among Jewish temples and synagogues and schools and sport clubs. If we have time, even though it's not the topic for tonight, I will explain briefly how Jewish people in Latin America mostly, in order to be with other Jewish people, they don't only belong to synagogues, but they participate in Jewish clubs, when I say clubs, Jewish sport clubs like Akoach, Hebraica, and some others, Maccabi, very historical institutions in which people celebrate their secular Judaism, not necessarily religious, but definitely they feel Jewish and they want to share their Jewishness with other people as well.
So tell me a little bit about you, where you grew up, your background. Is it, I imagine, from what I've heard about Latin America, that the Judaism is conservative or Orthodox. There's not really a reform movement. I don't know. So tell me a little bit about, what was your Jewish background?
Very good. So let's begin with my last name, D-U-E-K, Dweck. There are many Dwecks all around the world, and Dweck is the last name that all of us, regardless of where different Dweck people are in the world, the last name is tracked back to Aleppo, Syria. Aleppo, Syria. In Syria, there are two major cities, Aleppo and capital city Damascus. And in Arabic, Aleppo, you say Halab. And Damascus, you say Shuam. So that's why you have Syrian Jews can be Halabis from Aleppo or Shamis from Damascus.
Oh, fascinating. Is that the same as like Ashkenazi and Sephardi, or no? Are they Sephardic?
Yes.
They're considered Sephardic. Okay.
We are considered Sephardic. And as you may know, within the Sephardic world, you have the Mizrahi, the ones from Northern Africa, Iran, Iraq, and Syria is where my grandfather, David Dweck, Zichrono Livracha, he was born. He emigrated to Argentina around 1910. He met my grandmother, Sara Sasson, Zichronah Libracha, and they had 5 children. My father, Jose, he passed away 9 years ago, but I grew up on my mother's side. Last name is Romano. Romano is also a Sephardic last name. And as far as I could find out, this is very interesting. Jewish people living in Italy many years ago, many centuries ago, the ones that could afford being treated like citizens, like Roman people, they were given that name, Romano.
So they were more
Jewish.
secular.
Exactly. So because of that, even though Romano last name goes for Jewish and non-Jewish people as well, in my particular heritage, Dweck, 100% from Halab, Aleppo, Syria, and Romano, originally from Damascus. So I could say I'm a 100% Sephardic. But then 10, 12 years ago, when I send I'm doing this because you have to spit in order to send your stuff to, what's this, the 23andMe. Are you familiar with?
Oh, yeah. 23andMe. Yes. Oh, you spit into the tube. You spit into the tube.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not talking about
no. So
other things you can do.
Other things, just heritage.
Okay.
So I found out that I had still a 10% of my heritage Ashkenazi. How come? And then my mother told me, and I knew this from before, that there are in the family lineage going back some Ashkenazi last names. But going to Argentina, I was born in 1970. You can do the math. I'm 50 years old. And I grew up in a home that was not conservative, not Orthodox, not secular. And why I'm saying this? Because as you pointed out correctly, Daniel, in Argentina around before 1965, there was only Orthodox and secularism, nothing in between.
Right.
The person, believe it or not, the rabbi that began with the conservative movement in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and in all the country, he passed away many years ago, Rabbi Marshall Mayer. Marshall Mayer, an American rabbi.
But B'nai Jeshurun, right?
Yes.
Connected to B'nai Jeshurun.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic music, great musical tradition.
But I have to say,
yeah.
You were talking about cantors and rabbis. Briefly, Rabbi Marshall Mayer, he received his ordination in JTS, let's say 1960, 1965. He was hired as a young rabbi to work in Templo Libertad, Buenos Aires, Argentina. And then he created and funded a school that I went to as a youngster, and I celebrated my bar mitzvah there with him, with Marshall Mayer and some other rabbis. And he was very active in the political world as well, human rights and so on. But my point is, even though when we say conservative, we know that United States East Coast conservative can be very different from the West Coast conservative. So in Argentina, I would say that conservative movement was never something like on the East Coast, was a hybrid between reform and conservative. But regardless of that,
what were the elements that you would say would identify that? Was it more musical participation? When you say it was more like reform conservative, what elements would you highlight?
Definitely, he was, yes, in services, 100%, beautiful music, the use of organ, the use of other instruments. Not necessarily, Marshall was not devoted of the figure of a Hazzan, even though there was a Hazzan. He wanted shlichei tzibur. For the ones that don't know this term, tzibur means the public, kahal, yes, the congregation, and sheliach is the emissary, is a representative. So he really wanted different people to participate from, of course, with vocal skills to participate in the service. But he was an amazing and very charismatic speaker. So when he spoke about Judaism and about the Torah, people couldn't believe it because they were used to how an Orthodox rabbi speaks.
Right, Torah. And what about Kol Isha? What about the female voice? Did he support the female voice?
Didn't have a problem at all.
Big difference, yeah.
And I would like to add something. Part of myself becoming a Hazzan and embracing Judaism with so much passion is because he imported from US to Argentina, the Ramah camp model.
Ah, sure, the Ramah camp movement,
So,
sure. I'm a Ramah guy too.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
you are smiling when you say Ramah.
I love it. I love it. Some of my closest friends to this day are
Exactly.
still Ramah people that I met at Ramah. Even though we might not be in the same city at times, we're still in touch. So I'm
For example, I'll give you an example about Marshall and Ramah that lasted for a month, and close to 250 kids went there, and a huge group of madrichim and directors. Great program, amazing. But for example, softball, baseball, softball is not a sport that you will find in Argentina. You have soccer, that we call it football. You have everything in between, but we don't have nobody plays softball. But Marshall, being American, he said, let's teach these Argentinian guys how to play softball. So we were playing softball and we were doing a lot of other things. And it was amazing for many, many generations. Going back to BJ, Bnei Jeshurun, which is the Jewish congregation on the Upper West Side, which is an amazing place to grow Jewishly, musically, and in many ways. When Marshall concluded his work in mid-90s, he felt that he needed to have another challenge in his life. So first he came to California for a year or two, and then he went to New York. And BJ, Bnei Jeshurun, was a temple that was dying in ashes. And he said, even though I can be charismatic, I need my teammates. So he brought with him from Argentina 2 rabbis and a cantor. And the 3 of them are still, after 20, 25 years, they are still participating in different ways in BJ.
So what I'm hearing is you really had a background in being inspired through innovation. And that is one thing that I've always loved about what you do now, is you're always looking to innovate. You're always looking to engage your congregation. You're always looking in ways to inspire, not only just using music, but in any ways that you can, and collaborate with your rabbis. I admire that so much about you. You've worked tirelessly to do that. Now, so tell me just briefly, or tell the audience and our listeners about your Jewish journey. So what got you into becoming a Hazzan and wanting to spend your life? What was your calling? What was that? Is there a moment that you can say in Argentina or someplace where you were so inspired?
Yeah. I have so many things to share, and that
we don't have a lot of time, so pick the one most important.
you need to have me another time. So
I would love to.
The second part,
yes,
because there's so much to share and to talk. But what I can tell you is that from an early age, my siblings and I, we are 3 brothers and a sister. We were all sent to Jewish day schools, and after 7th grade, which is regardless, when it was time to do high school, I went, same as my siblings, to the public, very good public high school. But on the afternoons, we went from Monday to Thursdays, 3 hours each day to Jewish day school. So my Hebrew level and my Jewish level in terms of Sifrut, which is literature, Torah and Tanakh, and Shira, which is music, and Historia, and so many, many things, Talmud even, we've learned a lot in 5 years. So around that time, and even before, I loved Jewish music always. I was a youngster at home, and my parents had the big discs, correct? How do you call it?
The record players.
Record player.
Yeah, the LPs, yeah.
LP, listening to Eurovision, Hallelujah, 1978.
Ah, sure,
and so many other stuff that I loved. And I discovered that I could sing, that I had some skills, and I enjoyed terribly. So one thing led to the other. I began participating in Lehaka. Lehaka means an ensemble of voices in Solomon Schechter, which depends from a larger organization in Buenos Aires called Seminario Rabínico Latinoamericano. This place not only forms rabbis and teachers, but prepared youngsters like me in high school age to do things. And there was a time around when I was 15, 16 years old, I came back from Ramah camp and I was bored. Mom, Dad, what do I do? I'm bored. All my kids, they had much more money. And from there, they went to Punta del Este, Uruguay, beautiful places. So my parents could afford sending some of us to Ramah camp, but they couldn't give us on top of that many more things, either A or B. And I said, what do I do? And my mother told me, you know, Pablo, I found a little advertising in the seminary rabbinical in the hall. They are looking for a Hazzan in a very small shul outside Buenos Aires. You will have to travel bus, subway, and train.
Oh my goodness.
And I was not a Hazzan at the time. I knew Hebrew very well. I knew the prayers. Why don't you go? I don't know, Mama. So go. I went, I was hired. And from that time, 16 years old till today, I never stopped working as a Hazzan for even a month. So we are talking about 34 years.
My goodness.
34 continuous years in different places with different levels of complexity. From that shul, I was asked to go to a different one, to a bigger one, with Rabbanim and with many, many weddings and mitzvahs. So it was a beautiful journey there. And I was exposed to the golden era of Judaism, I would say, in Argentina, not only because of Marshall. When I go back and I think about youth groups, I attended youth groups till I was 13, till 16, 17, or even younger. And as you said, I still have amazing friends from that time. And when we had Avdallah, because the peulot, the activities began right after Avdallah. So we were literally in a huge room, big place, 250 kids in the middle of the place, totally dark, singing nigunim, singing the blessings, and it felt magical. So I fell in love with Judaism and with music, and that's a partial journey of myself.
So because we do not have a lot of time, and I want to make sure we get to some of your music and an example of that. But one of the things, so I'm going to shift a little bit here. We were going to listen to a song, and then you're going to play a video also. But I think we're going to just do the video because I really want to talk to you more about some things. So one, who would you say is one of your musical influences in the Cantor, besides Marshall? And obviously, I'm blanking on his name, but his Hazzan is phenomenal. I mean, I remember going to B'nai Jeshurun when I was, younger. I would go to New York to, the Cantor's Assembly conventions, and I would go spend more time so I could be in Shabbat prior, just to go listen to Marshall and listen to the Cantors there and the singing.
Ari Friedman.
That's it. Yes, Ari Friedman, yes.
So definitely Ari Friedman was my mentor, and I looked at him and listened to him with admiration during high holidays and Shabbat services and weddings and so on. That was in my early years. And then a lot of other people became sources of admiration because, as you know, we grow and we take elements and influences from many other places.
Well, it's fantastic. So now the seminal question that I ask all of my guests, because here we are exploring Jewish music. We have people, I've had people on this little this Cantor cast, as my kids like to say it, from all different Jewish backgrounds. The biggest question I want to ask is, what do you consider the thing that makes music Jewish music? Is it from religioso, the religious music, or is it the music outside? What makes music Jewish music?
Very good. Since I knew that you were going to ask me the question, I don't know how.
Don't tell them.
It came to me as a dream. Yesterday night, I was dreaming that today I was going to have this podcast with you. And I don't know why I thought you were going to ask me this. So I'm answering the question. I believe that Jewish music is all the cultural and religious music that resonates among Jewish people in different moments of history. So I'm talking from—
Interesting. Okay, you got to break that down for me.
I know, because I'm telling you everything.
Very broad right now. Yes.
Very broad. So when we talk about Jewish music, anybody can think Abba Nagila Abba. Someone can think about Kol Nidre. Someone can think about Sunrise, Sunset, or a Broadway musical from Fiddler on the Roof. Someone else can think about Hatikva. Someone else can think about Hallelujah, Eurovision, or even the last song that won in Israel 2 years ago, that it's not my cup of tea, but represents a group of youngsters in the new generation.
Sure.
I'm not your toy, whatever. But believe it or not, it was produced by Jewish people. And I believe that when we as a people find a particular melody or a song that resonates within us, we can make that piece, even though that piece could be composed or not by a Jewish composer, we can make it Jewish. And when I'm telling you that the Kol Nidre, did you know that Bruch, the author of the most known melody for Kol Nidre, he was an anti-Semite. Did you know this?
No.
He was an anti-Semite, and after a while, for different reasons, this piece became a huge piece that is used.
He was a Jewish person that was that didn't like Jews?
No, he was not Jewish.
I thought you did Bruch.
Even though we may think Max Bruch 100% is a Jewish person, but Max Bruch was not Jewish. He was a German, and I remember having studied this with people. We can go to Google and find out and look about that. But my point here is, even non-Jewish people that compose music can provide elements, songs, something that could be taken by the Jewish people, and that piece itself can become a piece of Jewish music, which goes against the common assumption that all Jewish music is composed by Jewish people. No, for example, if I ask you, Billy Joel, we know that Billy Joel, amazing New Yorker musician.
He's Jewish though. No, I'm only kidding. No.
But the point is, would you say that all the songs that he composed are Jewish music or not?
No, of course not.
Why not?
Why not? Because he writes. He's a storyteller. So
but there are many Jewish storytellers that make songs, and those songs. What I believe, that's my reasoning, is that if he would have written about something Jewish or not, but the Jewish people embraced that song because that song represented something for them, that song may have become Jewish. And
so the only thing we can say is that we've talked about this, and the academic is contrafaction. When you take a melody, there's an academic term for that. When you take a melody or you take a song that resonates, and we maybe put it into the synagogue setting, or we put it into the musical vernacular of a holiday. And for example, "Blowing in the Wind," how many times must a man, big protest song of the 60s. Yes. It has been now part of, in some families and in some synagogues, it's part of the Pesach music, because it's about freedom. It's about, so even though it's certainly not written by Jews, there's a lot of melodies. I think that's what I'm hearing from you, is there are these melodies, there are these songs that really resonate us, like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Even though it has a little bit of Jewish text to it, or at least biblical text to it, it really resonates with us, and we bring it into the synagogue, and it is now accepted as kind of having a Jewish theme. Is that where you're going with this?
Yes, and I would like to say, even though we have a little amount of time and we are going to show part of my music, a similar question that we can ask ourselves and to the audience is, what makes popular music popular? What makes a piece of music become popular? And in a way, there's a similar answer. Any piece, for example, let's imagine the most talented musician decides to create and to write opera prima, yes, a very important piece, orchestra and this and that. And the day in which he is releasing this, after a week, after a month, after a year, for different reasons, this piece does not resonate at all in the people's mind and heart. This piece will drift away and will go forgotten. Why? Because regardless of how talented or amazing a particular musician is or was, if there's no connection through the heart to the people, that piece of music won't make it in the popular world. And the same goes for the Jewish music.
I can't agree with you more, that our music resonates with our hearts. The melodies of the synagogue, the melodies outside, if it reaches into our soul and it elevates us, then that certainly has elements of Jewishness in it. I want to move on to your video. Okay. So can you introduce your video? Because I want to have a couple minutes at the end to wrap things up with you. So can you tell us what you're going to share with us?
Yes. A month, 2 months ago, an Argentinian cantor, Ramon Tassat, who is in Washington, very talented guy, he approached me and many of us in the cantorial world saying, and not only the cantorial world, leaders from other religions, and he says, we are living in a time of social division, and there's a lot of healing to do. Would you like to help me doing that? Absolutely. What can I do? Record a song, involve people, do this, do that. So that's my little contribution to that, which took place a month, 2 months ago, a national ceremony for healing, which was greatly attended, more than 1,000 people. And there is a beautiful website about that that I can mention later on.
Please tell us. Don't forget to tell us about it.
This is a famous song written by Rabbi Creditor. The name is of the song Kol Olam
Menachem Creditor.
Menachem Cantor.
Married.
Yeah. We will build the world from love. Enjoy. Here we go.
Olam chesed yibane, yana lai lai lai, yana lai lai. Olam chesed yibane, yana lai lai lai, yana lai lai. Olam chesed yibane, yana lai. Olam chesed yivane, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. Olam chesed yivane, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. Olam chesed yivane. From love, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. And you must build this world from love, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. And if we build this world from love, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. And God will build this world from love. Yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. And if we build this world from love, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai. Then God will build this world from love, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai.
Hello, hello.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. Please bring us back so we can see you in person. It's up at the top there. Just want to say I love this piece. Menachem is a wonderful soul, married to Neshama Karlebach, two of my favorite people in the world. Everybody out there, we've had Neshama and Menachem came to our to the concert that I did last year, and they were, gave some video footage for that and helped participate. So, but bringing us back to Pablo. Pablo, thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. Was that produced here in Los Angeles and then sent to them, or did you do the editing on it as well and put the images to it yourself? I'm always interested in the backside of these things.
I chose the images myself, and I asked an editor in Buenos Aires to do it for me, and the recording took place here with some of the members of our shul. I have much more material to share. I'm very.
Kent, we have to do this again.
We have to do it again.
But let me ask you, just as we're tell us what's going on next for you, because I know just to everybody know, we're going to be working together on a Pesach project where you've invited me so graciously to participate in getting some recordings together, some pre-arrangements, and then putting some music together for a project that we'll release around Pesach. So I know that's coming up. Tell us about the website where we can go see this, or your website, or any other places that we can engage with you.
If people go to Temple Etz Chaim website, or they look for my name, Hazzan Pablo Dweck, and they go through music, they will find 3 different services. One is the most traditional one, recorded with an amazing guitarist, a friend of mine several years ago. And there are 2 other sections. One is Rock Shabbat and Beatles Shabbat. Many congregations, we engage in these modern things, but I'm very proud of the work and the quality of sound and the energy. I have to go because
I know 6 o'clock. So thank you. I will let you go. I could keep you here all night. So again, thank you, and please feel free to go, and I'll wrap things up. Okay.
It was a pleasure. To everybody watching, not only Temple Ramat Zion, but people all over the world, who knows? Thank you for being here. And one more time, thank you, Daniel Friedman, for the invitation.
My honor. So everybody, have a wonderful evening. Shavua Tov.